All right, guys, so this is the second half of the video for circumference and arc length. So if you haven't watched the circumference video yet, please do that first because you will need to know stuff from there in order to be successful here. All right, so before we talked about circumference, which is all the way around the circle, but what if we only want to know a part of the outside? We don't want to know all the way around, we just want to know a piece, okay? Well, that's when we would find the arc length. Okay, so if we just wanted a piece, we would find the arc length of this arc right here. Okay, and arc length is just a fraction of the circumference of a diameter. And we have this formula right here that we can use. The arc length equals the measure over the arc, the measure of the arc over 360 times 2 pi r. Now notice this 2 pi r is just the circumference of the circle. Okay, and something else to note that if the measure of this arc is, I don't know, something degrees, that degree measure is also going to be the same as the central angle, which would also be x degrees. Okay, so let's do some examples. All right, so here we want to find the arc length of AC. So what we're looking for is just this distance right here. Okay, so arc length is going to equal arc measure over 360 times 2 pi r. Okay, so if I plug things in, arc measure is 50, so arc length equals 50 over 360 times 2 pi, my radius is 3. Okay, so if I clean this up, 50 over 360 is 5 over 36 times 6 pi. 5 times, if you want to think of this as over 1, you can. So 5 times 6 is 30 pi over 36, which is 5 pi over 6. Okay, so if I wanted the exact measure, so the arc length is 5 pi over 6 centimeters, this would be exact. If I wanted a round, I would put 5 pi over 6 into my calculator, and you'd get roughly 2.618 centimeters. That would be rounded. So depending on what you're looking for, this would be your final answer. All right, so find the length of arc ER. So once again, we're looking for this piece right here. Okay, so we're going to use the arc length formula. That's going to be arc measure over 360 times 2 pi r. Okay, so arc length equals, now notice we don't have an angle measure here, but we do have this central angle. If this central angle is 50, the measure of this arc is also 50, so I could just put 50 over 360 times 2 pi, and then my radius is 7. Okay, and then if I simplify this sum, 50 over 360 is just 5 over 36 times 14 pi, which then 5 times 14, if you want to put that over 1, that's fine. 5 times 14 over 36, that'd be 70 pi over 36, which then reduces to 35 over 18. So my arc length, if I want it exact, 35 pi over 18, that's exact. If I want it simplified, I could say my arc length is roughly, if I put this in my calculator, I get 6.11 centimeters. All right, let's look at example 3 now. All right, now pay special attention to what arc length we're finding. So it says find the length of arc ADC. So what that means is we start at A and we go in that order. We have to get to D before we get to C, which means we're going this way. Okay, so we want to find this arc. Okay, so arc length equals arc measure over 360 times 2 pi r. All right, so let's work a little bit here. If this is 80 and all the way around is 360, I can find the measure of this arc here as 360 minus 80, which would be 280. Okay, so this is 280 degrees. Now, if this central angle is 280 degrees, the measure of this arc here is also 280 degrees. Okay, so that's my arc measure. So I could say arc length equals 280 over 360 times 2 pi, and my radius is right here at 12. All right, 280 over 360 simplifies to 7 over 9 times 24 pi. If you want to put that over 1, you can. So 7 times 24, this then simplifies to 168 pi over 9. And 168 over 9 simplifies more to 56 over 3. Okay, so I could say my arc length is 56 pi over 3, and that would be feet. Or my arc length, if I wanted to round, so I put that into my calculator, you would get roughly, approximately, 58.64 feet. This would be exact. This would be rounded. And that's my final answer. All right, now that I've done a few examples, I want you to go ahead and do this one on your own. Try to find the exact measurement and then also try to find the rounded measurement by putting it into your calculator. Okay, so do that on your own, then we'll go over it. All right, let's look at this. Okay, so we're just going to use the formula we've been using. Okay, and our arc measure is right here. It's 135. So 135 over 360 times 2 pi r. Our r is 13, so I plug 13 in there. So 135 over 360 reduces to 3/8. 2 times 3 is 26. I keep my pi. Well, when I multiply 3 times 26, I get 39. So 39 pi over 4, that does not reduce. So my exact answer is 39 pi over 4. If I plug that into my calculator and get a decimal, it rounds to roughly 30.63. All right, let's look at number 5. Now, number 5 doesn't have a diagram, so we have to pay close attention. So it says the length of the arc is 12 centimeters. Okay, so that's the arc length is 12 centimeters. And it has an angle measure or an arc measure of 80 degrees. We want to find the radius. Okay, we're going to use this same formula. So arc length equals arc measure over 360 times 2 pi r. Okay, well, I know my arc length. It's right here, right? So 12 equals my arc measures here, 80 over 360 times 2 pi r. Okay, now 80 over 360 does reduce. So let me put that in, 80 over 360. That reduces to 2/9. So 12 equals 2/9 times 2 pi r. And so if I multiply all these together, I get 12 equals 4 pi r over 9. Okay, let's do some algebra. Let's multiply both sides by 9 and get rid of that fraction. And I get 108 equals 4 pi r. So divide by 4 pi, divide by 4 pi. this gives me 27 over pi equals r. Okay, so if I want exact, I would say 27 over pi equals r. That is exact. And if I put it in my calculator, I get or rounded roughly 8.6, and that should be centimeters. That'd be rounded. All right, here's the last example here. Use the example we just did and try to do this one on your own. Make sure you try to find the exact and the rounded answer, and then we'll go over it. All right, so it says, if the length of a 273-degree arc is 17.28, find the radius of the circle around to the nearest tenth. Okay, so the arc length it tells you is 17.28. So we're going to plug that right in here. Okay, so that's exactly what I did. And the arc measure is 273, so of course we plugged it in here, which is right here. So if we simplify, we get 91 over 120. And then if I multiply it by 2 pi r, we get 91 pi over 60. Okay, divide by 91 pi, divide by 91 pi. I get this as my exact answer. Now, guys, I probably should have said something earlier. When you put this into your calculator, you have to put this in parentheses. Okay? Otherwise, your calculator does it incorrectly. Okay, but when you put that in your calculator, you should get 3.63 meters.